Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon to all the audience present. Before we begin, let us all recite our prayers to bless today's webinar. A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Arrahmanir rahim. Maliki yaumiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amin. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unlocking Your Research Potential, the Key Elements webinar. First and foremost, I would like to thank our guest speakers, Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Salahuddin bin Abdul Aziz, University Kebangsaan Malaysia, and Dr. Adzuhaida M. Taha from Sekolah Sri Puteri Cyberjaya, all SBP teachers and students, especially those participating in Frsis 2021, for devoting your time and attention to attend our program today.
Well, what is Fully Residential School International Symposium or Frsis actually about? Frsis is an event organized by the Ministry of Education Malaysia under the Fully Residential School Management Division in cooperation with the National Commission for UNESCO Malaysia. Thus, the vision for Frsis is to create world-class leaders. In today's event, we will expose the students to how to obtain information and how to find researches online. This is so that the students can know how to make dissertations, theses, and research papers, especially when they enter university later on. This webinar also serves as a guideline to the symposium participants to prepare for the abstract and create the best video presentations based on the themes given.
Every year, the theme for Frsis has always differed from the last. For the year 2021, the main theme is COVID-19 pandemic, gains and losses, with 6 sub-themes under it. The sub-themes comprise the effects of COVID-19 to the population regarding aspects of education, economy, digital revolution, climate change, mental health, and the nation's well-being. Consequently, Frsis has always been a platform to develop effective leaders who are not only aware of the current issues, but are also able to apply their knowledge in solving problems effectively. With the participation of students from all around the world, we are always aiming to create a significant impact in molding global leaders with towering personalities and improving leadership skills.
Without further ado, I would like to invite our guest speaker, the Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Salahuddin bin Abdul Aziz from University Kebangsaan Malaysia to continue with his speech.
Hi, thank you, Nur Azmina, and thank you, Hana. All right, Assalamualaikum and Salam Sejahtera. Very good afternoon to all the teachers and students at FRS, Fully Residential School. So happy to see you, even though I can't see you. All right, let me introduce myself first. I'm Dr. Saleh. As Hazrina has said, I'm from UKM, University Kebangsaan Malaysia. And I have served the university more than 35 years. Next year, inshallah, will be my last year. I'll be retiring at the age of 60. All right. I'm married. Of course, after so many years, you have to be married. I'm married. And my wife is a teacher at a school in Kajang, a Chinese school. But now she's working with the Ministry of Higher Education. Okay. And I have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. And my first is a doctor. He's a doctor. And my second, a girl, a daughter. Uh, my second, a girl, a daughter. She's a lawyer. She has her own firm, and she practices law. Okay, and my youngest is a nuclear engineer. Nuclear engineer, and he graduated from UTM and from a university in Korea. But the thing that I want to tell you is that both my children, they are graduates. Actually, they came from a fully residential school. And you know what? The school that they came from is Sekolah Menengah Sains Alam Shah, or ASIS. So ASIS must be proud of them. All right. Okay. Okay. That's about the thing about myself. And at the university, I teach courses, mainly courses on testing and evaluation. But sometimes I've been invited to share my knowledge with regard to courses like research methodology. Okay, for today, I and Dr. Azu, we will share our knowledge with regard to writing an abstract, uh, as well as sharing with you with regard to how to conduct a research. All right. Okay. Let's go to the next slide, Dr. Azu. Okay. Thank you so much. Now, this is an overview of my presentation. Basically, there are two parts to the presentation, and I will present first. Okay. And Dr. Azu will present right after my presentation, and she will focus in terms of the review of the literature, in terms of how to collect information, materials with regard to the research that you are going to do after you have written your proposal. But for my part, I will, as you can see on the screen, I will briefly focus on the symposium that you are going to attend, and then I will move on to explaining to you in terms of what is an abstract, and then I will focus on basically how to write an abstract. Okay, and after I have shared my knowledge with you with regard to this writing of the abstract, I will move on and explain in terms of research. I will focus and define what is research, and the types of research that we have, the research design. And if we have time, I will try to explain a bit in terms of the research process. And probably I would also touch on the research proposal, and there is a tendency that you are going to write a proposal too, in order to present at the international symposium. All right, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, this is the symposium that you are going to attend. Huh? And for those of you who do not know the meaning of symposium, a symposium is basically a conference. It's a very big meeting in which we have paper presenters and participants who will attend the conference. In our case, our symposium, the title of it is called the ninth fully residential schools international symposium. Okay, and it's done online, and the date is from the 1st to 3rd of October. So it's not very far off. You have a few more months to prepare. And one thing that you have to remember is that there is a theme, with regard to the symposium. And the title that they have chosen for this year's symposium is called COVID-19 pandemic. So this is the time that we are experiencing COVID-19 pandemic, gains and losses. There are gains, there are something that we gain. In fact, we gain something from the pandemic, but of course, most of the time we lose. But amongst the gains would be the digital platform. I'm a traditionalist. I don't know how to use a computer. I'm not very computer literate, but I've been forced into the well to learn about the online platforms such as the Zoom, Google Meet, WebEx, So, I have to learn all those things. All right. So basically, that is the platform. Now, I won't discuss in terms of the sub-teams. What I just want to inform you that, and I've been told that you've been assigned, with regard to the 6 sub-teams, each school has been assigned the area in which they have to focus on. All right. So these are the sub-teams of the symposium. And please take note that you have to focus on the area. And when you prepare your notes, your abstracts later on, make sure that your abstract is related to the themes and also related to the main theme. Don't present something that is outside the themes, the main theme as well as the 6 sub-themes. So as a paper presenter, make sure the title of your abstract is relevant to the symposium. All right. So, and these are the 6 themes that you have to consider. All right. Let's move on to the next slide. Now, actually, the aim, according to the organizer, for having this platform is to mold you to become world-class leaders. And I believe you need a good platform. That's why we have the symposium, and that's why we have lots of participants, international participants from Indonesia, from Japan, from the Philippines, and from other countries. And I believe you can use this platform to actually promote yourself. Now, with regard to the next slide, the question says how to participate in the symposium. Now, in order to participate in the symposium, what you need to do is to submit an abstract. Yeah? So you have to submit a proposal basically in the form of an abstract. And then the panel members will decide whether to accept your proposal or your abstract, and present, and you can present in the symposium. But just bear in mind that each team member must prepare an abstract of not more than 250 words. Yeah? So basically, this is normally the maximum length of an abstract. And please make sure that you focus on the 6 sub-themes and don't deviate from the sub-themes and the main themes. And I believe a template has been given, and you need to submit the final abstract in the form attached in the website. So this is how you are going to participate. Next, I'm going to talk to you with regard to what is an abstract. What is an abstract? Okay. So because you are not very familiar, this is probably the first time that you are presenting at a conference, in a symposium. But if you read the slide, the abstract is actually a short summary of a larger work. meaning your abstract is going to be based on your research, or on your research paper, or if you are in a university, it's actually based on your dissertation. Dissertation is basically a thesis, a big thesis, a bigger thesis. Okay. So when you write a thesis, you have to have an abstract. If you write a research paper, you have to have an abstract. If you do a research and in which you are going to do a research, you have to have an abstract in which you are going to write and present to the secretariat of the symposium for them to consider whether to accept your abstract or not. Yeah? But normally, student papers do not need an abstract. But in this case, because you are presenting at a symposium, because it involves international participants from so many countries, that's why you need to prepare an abstract. You have to prepare a very good abstract. Okay, let's move on. So an abstract is a comprehensive summary of your paper in which you address the research problem. Remember, your abstract must have a research problem. A research problem is actually an issue. What is the issue that you have investigated? The issue can be based on the 6 sub-themes. So think of an issue. Find an issue. You must have an issue. In order to do a research, you must find an issue. You cannot do a research without an issue. When someone says a research problem, that is the issue that you are going to investigate. And your abstract also must contain hypotheses. It doesn't have to be a hypothesis. It can just be research questions. It can just be a research objective. You know, you must have research objective. You must have research questions. So you are going to write this in your abstract. But remember, an abstract is just 250 words. So it's basically 7 to 8 sentences. It's not too long. And you have to include your research objective or your research questions. Now, next, you have to include the methods. You have to explain the methods in your abstract. When we say the methods, it means whether you are going to approach your investigation using the qualitative, or the quantitative methods. So you have to state. If you say your method is qualitative, then you have to mention about the participants. Who's the participant? And how do you choose the participants? How do you choose the participants? And you have to inform also the school, where is the site in which you have conducted your research. So this is what we mean by the methods. Next is the results. Now, if you have done a study, you have the results. But in this case, you have not done yours yet. You are just proposing a research, an area that you are going to focus on. So you don't have to include the result. You just mention the problem, the issue that you are going to investigate, the research questions, the research objective, and the methods. That's it. Yeah. And because you have not done your research, so that's about it with regard to the abstract. And probably you might want to include, I don't know, implication, but implication is not very important here. So that is what you include. Those are the key elements, within an abstract. Let's move on next, Dr. Azu. Now, basically, the main purpose of the abstract is actually whether to find out that your issue that you have brought up is actually relevant. So we want to find out whether your thesis, your abstract is good enough. So it allows the potential readers, or in this case, the panel judges, to quickly identify what your paper is all about. So you have to say what is the issue that you are investigating, the research questions, and also the methodology, and they will decide if it is worth reading or worth presenting at the symposium. So this is the purpose of the abstract, to choose and select the best abstracts in which they will decide whether your abstract can be part of the research, part of the symposium. Okay, let's move on. Now, let's look at this sample of an abstract. You know, the first thing that you have to do is to have the word abstract. This is the APA, the MLA style kind of abstract. You have the word abstract, and normally the abstract is bold. The word abstract is bold, and then you have the short paragraph. The short paragraph of your abstract. As I said earlier, you must include the issue, must include the problems, and include the methodology. You don't have the findings yet because this is what you are going to propose. If you have done your research, you must include the research findings and the implication of the study. But if you don't have the findings yet, you don't have the research yet, you can just mention these three things: the purpose, why you conduct the research, and probably the importance of the research, the issue itself, and the research questions, and the methodology, whether it's qualitative or quantitative. And then you have the word abstract. Above the word abstract, normally you will put the title of your abstract for the symposium. And normally you have the names of the people who are involved in writing up the abstract. Always discuss with your teacher with regard to the abstract, and make sure that it's error-free. Don't make mistakes, because if you make mistakes, it reflects badly on you. So you write well and make sure it's very good. All right, so this is a sample of abstract. Now, so what are the key elements of an abstract? If you read there, an abstract should give a brief summary. A brief summary, as I said, it is the G's, the main G's of your larger project that you are going to do. And in any abstract, you must have the introduction. Introduction, you have to state the issue. What is the issue? And why is the issue important? And you have to state the research objective, the research methods, and the findings. If you have the findings, if you have done your research, you can include the findings. If you don't have the research, don't include that. And then you have the conclusion. It's basically writing an essay, but a very compact, very coherent, mini size kind of essay. All right. I have a note there. I said that in some academic institutions, scientific journals, however, recommendations are not incorporated in the abstract. So you don't have recommendation. So in this case, you don't have recommendations because you have not done your research. You don't have recommendation. Unless you have done your research, you probably have the implications and recommendations that you want to make. You can include that in your abstract. If you don't have, it's quite okay. All right, so let's move on. Now, one thing that you have to remember when writing an abstract is that do not cite sources. Don't cite any sources. For example, you say Alderson 2013, Alderson 2020, Muhammad Salihuddin 2019. Don't cite references in your abstract. I see many students or many people who have done research and they have abstract and they have included the sources. They have included the references. In my case, I will not include, I will not cite sources, or I will not have references in the abstract, because we want to focus on the research that you have done, on your original research. We are not focusing on other people. The main focus should be your project, your research. And that is why we do not include references. We do not include citations. And one thing that you have to remember is that the abstract must be self-contained and fully understandable, meaning you must have introduction, you must have body, and it must have conclusion. This is what we mean by self-contained. But don't have any references. But I have been informed that you have to also include keywords. Keywords. You know, what are keywords? Keywords are the important words that you want to highlight in your project, in your research. They are normally 4 to 5 keywords. For example, you want to mention about digital platform, or you want to mention about Zoom, about WebEx. So you have the keywords below your abstract. You have keywords, colon, and then you have the words, the important words of your abstract. Normally, we limit from 4 to 5 keywords. And these keywords are also important if you actually submit your abstract to a symposium where they need to compile. And if you press certain keywords, your abstract will appear. So that's why you must be smart in actually choosing the right words for your abstract. All right? Okay, but remember, no citations, no references. So this is the sample of an abstract using APA style. Of course, you have the title. You must have the title. And your title must be catchy, must be very interesting. And next, your abstract should not be in a number of paragraphs. Cannot. You must only have one paragraph, one continuous paragraph. We don't have 2 paragraph abstract. We don't have 3 paragraph abstract. It's only one paragraph, one continuous paragraph, and make sure that your abstract does not exceed 250 words, you know, and you need the skills to write everything and compress everything within 250 words, and it's not very easy. It's not very easy. It really tests your writing skills and your organizing skills. Make sure that it's just 250 words and doesn't exceed. But if it exceeds 5, 6 words, it's quite okay. And one thing you have to remember is that the left side of the abstract is indented. Left side is indented, but the right side is not indented. It's okay. Only the left side. And don't indent. I don't know what is the spacing, but normally for a thesis, it's single spacing when you submit an abstract for a thesis. But for this symposium, I suppose it's double spacing because probably they want to write notes. When I say they, meaning the panel, the judges, they want to write notes. So I would suggest that you have double spacing with regard to the abstract, and you use maybe Roman style fonts, Roman style, I believe, and font size number 12. All right, so that's basically the abstract, and in this case is the APA style. So this is another example of the abstract. You can look at the important things in which you have to write, and see down there at the abstract, you can see that that's the term keywords. This is the term when I mentioned just now, we've got to keywords. In this case, you can say Facebook. So the keyword with regard to this research has got to do with Facebook, social media, magazine, appearance related social comparison, body language concerns, and finally mood. So basically, there are 5 important words for this abstract. And you can see that it is double spacing. So I would encourage double spacing. You have to check the website. What does the website say with regard to spacing of the abstract? But I believe it is going to be a double space. Okay, Dr. Azul, let's move on. Okay, so in terms of writing an abstract, we have to remember, this is just a guide in which you can follow. The first sentence is always why the study is needed. meaning the justification for having the study. You have to state the importance of the study. Why is this study important? You know, for example, you talk about digital platform. Why is digital platform very important nowadays, especially during pandemic? So you have to give justification. You have to mention that digital platform is very important because of la 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 la. Okay, we don't have time to have a face-to-face classes, right? And then sentence number two, probably you want to state about the purpose. What is the purpose? Why do you investigate the issue? Yeah. Why are you doing this? Why are you investigating this? And then next, you have to describe the participants. Yeah? If your research is a qualitative research, you have to mention about the participants, you know, the selection of the participant, how many of them, which school, which ethnicity. I mentioned that. Number four, normally you talk about the essential feature of the study with regard, you know, whether this is a qualitative study, whether this is a quantitative study. And of course, sentences number 5 and number 6, you are going to present the findings, the findings of the statistical significance levels, you know, if your study is a quantitative study, and of course, the conclusion. But if you don't have, you have not started your research, this is quite okay. You can do without sentences number 5 or number 6, and you just conclude. Remember, in any abstract, it must be self-contained. You must have introduction. You must have the body. You must have the conclusion. All right, let's move on. So this is a sample of an abstract submitted to a Scopus-based journal, meaning this is a good journal. You can see that the title of the abstract is an eye tracking study of learning from science texts with concrete and abstract illustrations. This is the title of this research. And underneath the title, we have the people who are involved in the study. And we see Lucia, Mason, Patrick, I can't even pronounce that, Lucino, Maria Caterina. These are the people who are involved in the research. And down there is the abstract. And below the abstract, we have the keywords. All right. So this is actually an example of an abstract that has been submitted to a very good journal. Okay, move on. Now, one thing that I want to highlight here is that when you have the title, when you choose the title, make sure that your title is not too long. Make sure that it's not too long. Make sure that the title of your abstract is between 12 to 15 words, keywords, important words. And the words are very concise, they are compact, they are clear, and they are correct. They are correct. Don't use unambiguous words. You know, you have to choose and impress upon your readers, your judges, panel judges. Make sure that the terms, the words that you use are very impressive. And also make sure that it's not too long. Normally, a title does not exceed 15 words, 14 to 15 words. And next slide. And the most important thing with regard to your abstract is that your abstract, the title must be interesting. Make sure it is very interesting, you know, because, you know, when people want to attend the abstract, they want to attend to papers or presentations that actually show that they are very interesting. So make sure that when you choose your title, when you create your title, please make sure that your title, the wording is very interesting. You know, if your wording is not interesting, I don't think they will attend. You know, one interesting title would be, for example, uh, why Sekolah Sri Putri is the best in terms of something. Why ASIS produces world leaders during pandemic times. So make sure when you write your abstract, your title must be very interesting. Okay, let's move on. The most important, most crucial part. Now, before you can write the abstract, you need to do a research. You must have a research. So, what is a research? What is a research? What is a research? Okay, if you look at the origin of words, the word research in English actually comes from the word recherche. I don't know whether I pronounce this correctly. I know you have lots of people who speak French, and actually, for your information, I scored the worst, during my undergraduate days. And this is the only course that I got a C plus. But I remember some terms like "Comment ça va?", "Ça va bien, merci." So in research, the word research actually comes from the French word. It means to search, to go about seeking something. You have the curiosity to look for something, to search for something. So that is what we mean by a research. It is actually a process of discovery new knowledge. You want to find out something new. You are seeking knowledge. In Al Quran is just the first verse, Iqra Al Quran, read, something like that. So you have the thing that you want to find out. What is the issue? And remember, your issue has got to do with the main theme of the symposium. Yeah, COVID-19, gains and losses, and the sub-themes. And look at the issue that you can find, areas that you can focus on. All right, move on. Now, one thing, when you do research, it must be done in a systematic way. A research, you have to follow the research process. You have to know the statement of the problem, the issue first, and then you have to do a review of literature, and then you have to have research objective, research questions, and then you have to have methodology, and then you have to have the findings, and then you have the conclusions, and then you make your recommendations. So a research is something systematic. You cannot, your research cannot be haphazard. When I teach my students in my class, I say your research cannot be hentam kromo. You know hentam kromo or not? Hentam kromo means tak kisahlah, we do our way. That is wrong. That is not a research. A research is something that is very systematic. We have to follow the system. We have to start off with an issue, and then we have to follow by research questions, and then we have to find literature. So in this case, after this, Dr. Azu will actually explain in terms of what is literature. Yeah? Creswell, 2010, says that a systematic investigation is a process of steps used to collect and analyze information to increase our understanding of a topic or an issue. So this is the expert who says that. It's not hantam kromo. We have to do our research in a proper manner. It is actually a process of a few steps, 8 to 9 steps that is used to collect and analyze information to increase our understanding of a topic. All right, let's move on. Now, how do we conduct the research? How do we conduct the research? I cannot see. No. Okay. Before that. Okay. Why do we conduct the research? Okay. Why do we conduct the research? Okay. That is the thing. I didn't see the title just now. It's very confusing. Okay. Why do we conduct research? We know already what is research. Now, why we conduct the research? We conduct research, we want to provide solutions to some problems, For example, we want to find out why some students are very weak, why some Malay students are very weak in English, for example. So we want to find out. So we do a study, we investigate. So we can also investigate in terms of the digital platform, the Zoom, the WebEx, Google Meet, and we want to find out, are these platform which of these platforms are a good platform. So we want to find out, is this platform good for Malaysian students? So you can investigate the issue. So one of the reasons why we do research is to provide solutions to some problems. So we have to identify the problems and we do the investigation. Yeah? Another reason why we do research is actually to make new discoveries. We want to find out new issues. What are the new issues? We want to do something to find out. Huh? So that's why we do research. And another reason why we do research is actually to contribute to the knowledge. We want to contribute knowledge to the domain, to the area that you are investigating. This is our contribution to the knowledge. That's why we add more knowledge. We add more knowledge with regard to the domain, to add more knowledge. Another reason why we do research is because we want to be better. We want to be better teachers. We want to be better students. We want to be student leaders. That's why we have a platform for you so that you can sharpen and hone your leadership skills. You want to become student leaders, not just students leaders in Malaysia, but students leader the world over. You want to be leaders of other students, even including international students, world leader, world-class leaders. You are from residential schools. I dream of actually being part of the warga of the FSP, fully residential schools, but I did not manage to be what you are now. You should be thankful. I actually dreamt to be part of the students in asrama of a boarding school, fully residential school, because I couldn't go in. During my time, we have a penilaian. I only got 3 Bs and 2 Cs. So I dream of going to MCKK, but I didn't get the opportunity. But later on, of course, I got into RMC, or was offered to go to RMC, but I did not go. So we want to become student leaders. So you should be grateful that you are our potential leaders. You are going to be the leaders in Malaysia. You are going to be politicians. You are going to be leaders. You are going to be CEOs. So right now you have to improve your communication skills. You have to do your research skills. Be somebody. So you want to be student leaders, good leaders. Next, of course, we do research because we want to give our contribution with regard to uh, uh, giving our ideas with regard to policies. We want to give our ideas with regard to policies that Ministry of Education makes. So we want to contribute our knowledge. So that's why we do research. We want to find out, for example, we want to set policies with regard to CEFR. For teachers, they know what is CEFR. Common reference English language framework. So we want to do research with regard to this area because in Malaysia we lack that kind of research, and we want to do it. We want to contribute. We want to make policies. We want to suggest, make recommendations to the ministry, to the government. So that's why we do research. And finally, in this slide, why we do research is to get recognition. We want to people to recognize that we are the potential leaders. So hopefully take this opportunity to actually participate in the symposium and give a great impact, that you are actually good students from good, fully residential schools. All right, move on. Now, what are the characteristics of good research? So now we are looking at the ciri-ciri kajian yang baik, the characteristics of a good research. What do you need to do? Number one, your issue must be current. It must be current issue. We don't want to focus on outdated issues. No. You look at the sub-themes and focus on the issues that are current. In this case, it's COVID-19. We are now experiencing this pandemic, is bad. It's truly bad. And you can focus on why people don't get the vaccines. Why are they running away from the vaccines? You can investigate the issue. Find out Why are there so many people who refuse to get vaccinated? So it's something current. So we want to find out. I want to know why. I have friends who refuse to get vaccinated. What is the reason? So you can investigate the issue. So what I'm trying to say here is when you want to do a research, choose something that is very interesting. Yeah. Next, number two, theory. No, no, not next. Sorry, go back. Okay. The next thing that you have to do in terms of the characteristic is that it must be linked to a theory. I know this is a bit difficult for youngsters, school children, but you have to know that when you do a research, you must have a theory. Even BA students don't understand what a theory is. Even master students, even PhD students, to your surprise, they still don't understand how do I relate a research to a theory. So you must have a theory. If your research lacks in theory, then your research is not a good theory. A research cannot be done in a vacuum. A research cannot be done in a vacuum. You have to integrate your research with a theory. Choose any theory, any relevant theory. Even for school children, you also need to have a theory. Just mention, at least at your level, you don't have to show how the theory is operationalized. At least state this theory, this paper, this research is investigated using A theory, theory A, theory B, whatever. That's it. Good enough. So it shows that you are doing something right. You don't have to explain the variables of the theory, the elements of the theory. No need. Just mention that this is my research and I investigate this research based on something. A little theory. Good enough. Just to show that you know that you need a theory to conduct a research. Okay, next, another characteristic of good research is that it is integrated. Yeah, it is an integration of methodology, literature, analysis, and conclusion. All the things are related here. You cannot do without other parts. When you have the introduction, the chapter one, you must be related to chapter two. Chapter two must relate to chapter three and must relate to the analysis conclusion. We don't do in a vacuum each of the section of the research. Next, your research must meet the research standard. Of course, when we talk of research standard, you have to follow the research process. How to conduct the research, what are the things that you include in research. So you cannot give something that timbang kati, cannot. You have to do it properly. And of course, when you do research, your research must have good issues, good research questions, and good objective. And finally, your research would have to have good knowledge. You have to have good knowledge of literature. In any research, you have to have a knowledge of the literature. You have to find the research gaps. Every research must start off with a research gap. You have to see what has been done in research, what has not been done. So your area is to find and do a research that has not been done. And that is the focus of your research. All right. So those things are the characteristics of a good research. Let's move on. Now, basically, there are two main types of research. One is basic research. Second is applied research. These are two big research types. Okay, I will explain what is basic research. Basic research is sometimes called, AKA here means also known as, AKA. AKA means also known as. It's also known as fundamental research. Fundamental research. Basic research. You just do research because you do research. You don't care whether it's applicable to something or not. You just do it. Sometimes people call this as pure research. You just do research. For example, you want to find how big is the universe. How big is the universe. Or you can find out how far is planet Mars. So these are the issues that are not relevant to us. But you want to do research. You want to just find out something for your own SS. SS here means shock sendiri. This is a fundamental research or pure research. There is no obvious commercial value. Move on. The next type of research is what we call applied research. Now, this is more important, more relevant. You have to solve problems. So find an issue and solve that issue which is related to a problem. And normally you have to find solutions to the everyday problem, within your life. And remember, look at the six contact, the six sub-themes of the symposium and see what are the common problems, what are the solutions that you can find. So this is what we call applied research. Even the word here, applied, to apply, to use the findings to solve a problem. All right, let's move on. Now, there are many types of research design. There's so many types of research design. And let's see what are the types of research design. Now, and then the first one is what we call correlational research. Correlational research. This is basically a quantitative kind of research. You do correlation and you use statistical analysis like Pearson correlation, to find out the relationship between two variables. This is what we call correlational study. We want to find correlation between, for example, stupid politicians and religion. So we want to find out whether there is a connection between stupid or not so intelligent politicians with a religion. So do a study, find out whether there is a link, there is a correlation between the two. Or we want to find out good politicians, good politicians and English communication skills, so we want to find correlation. Is the correlation strong or not strong? Next type of research is called causal comparative. So we want to find the variables and we want to find what are the causes and what are the reasons for certain things. This is basically also an quantitative research. Next is the experimental research. This is also a quantitative research in which you have the control group and the experimental group, and you have a pre-test and the post-test, and you want to find and you give a treatment, and then you see which one is the best between the two groups. This is called experimental study, and in experimental study we have statistics. We use descriptive statistics, or sometimes we use inferential statistics. Next is the historical research. This is actually library research. We do a study, we find out the history. And next is the ethnographic research. Ethnographic research, this is more of a qualitative research. You go to a certain community and you find out, what are the issues with regard to the community, with regard to a phenomenon. Find a phenomenon and you want to find out, whether the phenomenon is relevant, is very obvious in this community, and whether you want to find out the phenomenon can be related to certain theories. You are testing out the theories, you are building a theory. Next is action research. Mostly this kind of research is research done by teachers, to solve certain problems. For example, you want to find out whether you can use dictionary when learning English. So they have a dictionary, use of dictionary, and find out the impact. And finally, survey. This is more of a quantitative research. You have a questionnaire, you distribute. So these are all the types of research, and you choose one in terms of your research. So you can either choose a survey, you choose a correlational study, causal, comparative, experimental, historical, ethnographic, or action research. These are the types of research that you can apply with regard to your abstract, with regard to the research that you are going to do. Let's move on. So correlational research, as I said, it refers to the systematic investigation or statistical study of relationship between two or more variables without necessarily determining the cause and effect. We are not looking at the cause and effect. We are looking at the two variables, is there connection between the two variables? So we want to establish association, we want to establish correlation between the two variables. If you are into statistics, probably, some of you are very good at mathematics. I believe you are. You can use Pearson correlation coefficient and find out in terms of the correlation. Move on. So, for example, in this case, in a correlational study, you can see that the first rectangle, out of class language, and you want to see correlation between out of class language and English performance. So you do a study, you find a correlation, you use a scattergram, and you can find. So this is an example of a research. Next. Okay, another research, as I said earlier, survey. There are types of survey. You can use questionnaire, in which this is under no direct contact to respondent. You just use a Google form and you have the questions. But remember, when you have a questionnaire, you have to validate the questionnaire. You have to validate the questionnaire. If you don't want to validate the questionnaire, you can just use existing questionnaire and without making any changes. Then you can distribute the questionnaire using Google form, using snail mail, whatever. But you don't see, you don't discuss with the respondents. In a survey method, make sure that you have at least 30 respondents, 30 respondents to make sure that it is statistically significant. Don't use less than 30. And then that is the other way. You use interview also for a survey type of questionnaire. And basically, this is a quantitative study. Move on. We don't have much time. I'm going a little fast. This is what we call ethnographic research. This is a qualitative study. Find a phenomenon. If you look at this slide, it says investigation of a culture through an in-depth study of members of the culture. For example, Baba and Nyonya culture. This kind of study, you have to go into the community. For example, in this case, we can go and observe the Baba and Nyonyas. Yeah. Normally, for this kind of research, you have to use observation. Observation in Malay is called pemerhatian. Pemerhatian. And you use interview. Interview lah, temu duga. You interview the people, and sometimes you use questionnaire. For this ethnographic research, mainly you use observation. Mainly you use observation and interview. This is ethnographic. You have to immerse yourself in the community. For example, you want to find out the COVID-19 and orang aslis. So you have to go to the orang aslis community and find out what are their problems, and then do a research. You interview them, you observe them, and then you get the findings and present at the symposium. Next. Okay, next. Now, this is experimental study is different. It is very systematic. It's control research, predicting, controlling phenomena, examining causality among related variables. This is, everything must be controlled. You have two groups, two sets of people. Continue. For example, you have the control group and the experimental group, and you give a treatment. Now, in this case, the experimental group receive a treatment. So you have two groups. You have, for example, science students and commerce students. You want to see which group is better in terms of TikTok, for example. And then you compare the two groups and find out which group is better, control or experimental. And then you can make your conclusions. This is what we call experimental study. Next. This is the design of an experimental research, like a control group and experimental group. The experimental group receive a treatment, and then you have the post-test and the pre-test. Results of pre-test, results of the post-test, and you have the findings. So you want to compare which group is better. Next. Now, so we have talked already, we have discussed with regard to the types of research. Next, we are going to look at the types of inquiry, approaches to research. Now, how do we approach our research? What are the types of research inquiry that we have? Now, basically, there are three types of research inquiry. Number one is qualitative research. Number two, quantitative research. And number three, mixed methods. These are the three types of inquiry. If your study is basically involve interviews, involve observation, so you are going to choose, choose this as your research, and it's a qualitative research. If your study involve numbers, involve statistics, involve descriptive statistics, then you are going to use quantitative study or quantitative research. But if your approach uses qualitative, for example, interview, and quantitative, for example, survey, you combine both, then it's called a mixed method research. So basically, there are three types of research. you can look at the nature of your research and also the research questions that you have. So you will decide whether you are going to investigate the research qualitatively, quantitatively, or you are going to use the third method, which is mixed method research. Next. So as I said, the three types for quantitative research, we have the experimental research, and then we have non-experimental research such as survey, and these are all considered as quantitative research. Number two, qualitative research, we have phenomenologies in which we find a phenomenon and then we investigate. Ethnographic, for example, you go to a community, to go to the orang asli community, go to Baba community, immerse yourself, have interview, have observation, and have probably research questions, ask them. Or number three, grounded theory, meaning you just go there and investigate the issue and you find a theory. This is what we call grounded theory. And of course, finally, a case study. You can do a research with regard to Sri Putri, with regard to ASIS, with regard to RMC, you know. So just find, you can do research within your school, within your institution. You don't have to go outside. If that is the case, that is called a case study. And of course, we have mixed methods in which we involve qualitative and quantitative. You know, we can use sequentially. For example, we can use quantitative first, survey first, and then we have interview. Or concurrent, we can use at the same time. Or transformational, if we use a theory to investigate the issue using qualitative and quantitative. Move on, next. So the same thing, qualitative, quantitative. Qualitative research does not involve numbers. It involves responses, interview, what do people say, and you have a patterns that you get from the data of the interview. Quantitative is basically involve numbers. Move on. We don't have much time. Okay, no need. Move on. Move on. Okay, again, as I said, for a quantitative research, your research is normally experimental research. You have control group and you have the experimental group. And of course, you can have a survey. Make sure that you can create your own survey. But if you create your own survey, you have to validate your survey. So that is very time consuming and it's not easy. My advice to you, if you want to do a survey, just adapt a survey and don't make too many changes and use the survey and investigate the issue. Yeah. And then for qualitative study, you know, basically your investigation is a qualitatively done. For example, you have interview or you have a bigger interview called focus group interview in which you have 5 or 6 people in a group to interview. Next. So this is a quantitative research. Again, a survey, correlational, experimental. Continue. We move on. We move on to which approach or which inquiry to adopt. Move on. Which inquiry to adopt. All right. Okay. Now, if this one, I have to make a point. If you are doing a quantitative research for school children, my suggestion for you is just to use descriptive statistics. Do not use inferential statistics. Just use descriptive statistics. What I mean by descriptive statistics are issues with regard to mean, median, mode, percentages, standard deviation. Simple things. You don't use inferential statistics. Inferential statistics are the difficult statistics. These are multiple regression analysis, you know, varimax rotation. Those are very, very difficult. So we don't use that in the symposium. For your own research, just use simple statistics, percentages, the numbers, mean, average, mode. The most you can use is standard deviation to compare the performance of two groups. This is for quantitative study. Move on next. So as I said, for the symposium, do not use inferential statistics, but later on when you do your degree, when you do your master's, especially your PhD, you must use inferential statistics if your study is a quantitative study. If your study is a quantitative study, you must use inferential statistics. If you don't use your inferential statistics, you will not get to be a doctor. You will not get to be a doctor. You must apply if your study is a quantitative. But if your study is qualitative, you just use responses from the people using in vivo, or Atlas TI to investigate the issues. Move on. So these are the research for a qualitative study in which you have ethnographic studies, grounded theory, case studies, historical studies, action research, and phenomenological issues. You don't need to know just whether your study is quantitative or qualitative, and if it's qualitative, what are the types, and these are the types. Move on. Now, which approach do you use? Do I use quantitative or do I use qualitative? Which approach do I adopt in my research in which I can prepare an abstract paper and present at the symposium? My answer to that is it depends on the research problem. If the research problem is basically a qualitative study, then you use a qualitative inquiry, qualitative way to answer your research question. So you cannot force yourself to do quantitative. So you have to look at the issue that you are investigating. If the nature of the issue is more towards qualitative, then your investigation of the issue must also be qualitative. And sometimes it depends also on the researcher. And you want to do quantitative and you want to use the statistics, like multiple regression analysis, but you don't understand even mathematics, simple numbers you don't understand. So you cannot do a quantitative study. Might as well choose a qualitative study. So it depends on the knowledge that you have, how good you are in numbers, how good you are in statistics. You are very good, by all means, please do the quantitative research. And next is the audience. The audience, they are school children. The audience, they are school children. Teachers, they are not, well, I'm not saying that they're not good, but they don't know much about varimax rotation. They don't know much about regression. So my suggestion to you, just to use descriptive statistics. Percentages, standard deviation, mean, average, all those things. So coming back to the question, which approach or which inquiry to adopt with regard to your research to prepare for that symposium, up to you. You choose the kind of inquiry. All right, next. Next is the research process. This is very important. It will be elaborated in detail by Dr. Azu. But I just want to say that when you do a research, the first thing that you must have is the research idea. Now you have to know what is the issue. What is the issue that you are going to look for? Next, you are going to do literature review. Once you have identified the issue, you have to go and Google. You have to Google the Google Scholar, or the ResearchGate and find articles. When you do the review, you want to see what has been done, what has not been done, and what you can do. What has not been done is the research gap that you're looking for, in which you want to do your research. Now, after you have reviewed, you want to decide on the theory. What is the theory that you are going to use? Find a simple theory. Don't go and read complicated theories. Just find a theory. Remember, a research is not done in a vacuum. You must relate to something. You must relate to a theory. For your level, I just want you to say that this is the theory that I use to investigate my study. The elements are not important. Just mention the theory. Next, you have to have research questions. We have research objective, research questions. Then you have to have the research design. Is your study qualitative or your study is quantitative? Next, you collect the data. If it involves a quantitative study, you must have respondents. If your study involves interview, you must have participants. For quantitative study, make sure that you have more than 30 respondents. In a qualitative study, 1 or 2 can be your number of participants. And then you get the data, you analyze the data, and you write a report, and you write your abstract, and you submit the abstract to the secretariat of the symposium. This is the research process that you have to go through. Next. So the same thing that I said earlier, the first thing that you need to do as a researcher is to frame the initial question or the problem. You have to identify what is the problem, what is the issue that you are investigating. Next, you have to do literature review. You determine what studies, previous studies have said about the issue. What have they done? Where do they stop? What have they not researched? What are the research gaps? And the research gaps are the gaps that you are going to investigate. This is what you are going to find out. Next, you do the research questions, you design, you plan, and then you analyze the results and you do the report writing. And you have your abstract. You complete the abstract with the interesting title and submit it to the secretariat. This is the cycle, the thing. When I say you cannot hentam chromo is this. You have to follow the system. Number one, next slide. Number one, select a topic. What is the problem? And then number two, do a literature. You have to search, do Google search, do through Google Scholar, through ResearchGate. And then next, decide on the design of your study. Is it quantitative study? Is it qualitative study? And then next, collect your data using a survey or using an interview or using focus group interview. And then once you have the data, you analyze the data. So you can analyze the data using statistical analysis, or you can use thematic analysis or content analysis. And then you have the findings and then you discuss and then you write the report or you write your thesis if you are a student. So once you have all these things, you can write your abstract and get an interesting title and submit it to the organizer. All right, next. So this is the same thing. These are the steps in the research process. Move on. Now, before you start a research, normally what we do is a research proposal. You can start off with chapter 1. This is your research proposal. Chapter 1, you have a background of the study, statement of the problem, objective purpose of the study, research questions, conceptual framework. You don't have to have all this. Just have some basic things with regard to the main issues of your research. Number 2, next. Chapter 2. Chapter 2 has got to do with literature review. And normally in literature review, you have 3 main sections. Number 1 is the body of knowledge. Number 2 is the theoretical framework or the conceptual framework. And then you have past studies in which you focus on the literature gaps. And then you probably have the conceptual framework of your study in chapter 2. Move on. Next, okay, the 3 chapter is the research methodology, in which you talk about the research design, the population sample. So everything has got to do with the methodology. So basically, I'm sorry, I've extended the time. So these are the things that you need to do when you conduct a research. So I hope with this knowledge, you have some idea. And I know it's complicated. You have questions you ask, you don't understand. It's okay. It's okay. But slowly you will do it. And at least you know what are some of the key elements for you to have in order to conduct a research. So in this talk, I've discussed about how to write an abstract and how to conduct your research and what are the important things that you need to do in a research process. I hope I have actually made some of the things. I hope some. I don't expect everyone to be clear. I know you are just school children, but remember, you are good students. We are going to harness your potential as world leaders, world-class leaders, and must have passion. I know you can do it. You are a good researcher. One day, I hope you will become a prime minister, ministers, CEOs of multinational companies. So thank you so much. I hope you will become world-class leaders. And thank you all. And that's it. But we are going to have question and answer session after Dr. Azu presented her part on a review of literature. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you to Dr. Muhammad Salihuddin bin Abdulaziz for his fascinating presentation. I'd like to notify all of you that everyone will be able to get an e-certificate. The e-certificate will be generated to those who complete the assessment form. To all the teachers, you will not only be receiving an e-certificate, your attendance will also be taken for SPL KPM. Do stick around and be on the lookout for the Google form in the chat box during the webinar session. I would now like to invite Dr. Azuhaida M. Taha to proceed with the webinar.
Okay, thank you so much, Hannah. All right, our moderator for today's session. Okay, thank you for having me here along with Dr. Saleh. All right, actually, Dr. Saleh was my lecturer when I did my PhD, yeah, okay, in 2011, right? And whatever that I know today, it's because he has taught me, yeah, especially in research methodology. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon, everyone. Okay, well, I can see some familiar names, all right, in the comments. Yeah, okay, some of them are my friends, and I'm sure our students are there too. Okay, all the SBP students, okay, and teachers. All right, welcome to this session. And I think you've gained a lot of information from Dr. Saleh just now on what a research is, as well as on how to write an abstract. Okay. Well, as we know that the due date for abstract submission is coming soon, right? And hopefully this session helps you in preparing for a very good abstract, yeah? Okay. Well, as for my presentation, okay, this is the second part of our presentation on unlocking your research potential, okay, the key elements, right? I'll be focusing on how we're going to do research online, yeah? All right. Okay. Right. Oh, okay. A little bit about myself. I'm a teacher at Sekolah Sri Putri Cyberjaya, and I've been teaching in SSP since 2004. Yeah. Okay. And I think this is my 26th year of teaching. Right. Yeah. Okay. And I really enjoy teaching and meeting school kids like you guys. Right. Okay. All right, now, so in my talk today, in this webinar, I'm going to look at a few things. Okay, so this is an overview of what we're going to discuss. Yeah. All right. So first, I'm going to distinguish between facts and opinion, and then we'll look at search engine and sites to look for articles and information. Okay, steps in online research browsing. Okay, apps to help you store or organize articles to be read later, and also the issue of plagiarism. Okay, all right, now, okay, so let's go to facts and opinion. All right, so what is a fact? A fact is actually a statement that is true and can be verified objectively or proven. Okay, so in other words, a fact is true and correct no matter what. Yeah, and this is what a research is about. Okay, we don't want to include things which are only a hearsay. Okay, some people said that thing, okay, or something that you get from WhatsApp, okay, from gossips. Yeah, we don't want that. Okay, so we want something which is solid, which can be proven. So it is a fact. Yeah. Okay, whereas, okay, an opinion is a statement that holds an element of belief. It tells how someone feels, all right? So it's more on how someone feels, okay? So like today I feel good because it's sunny, it's not raining. Yeah, so it's an opinion, okay? It's an opinion. So first, in any research, you have to distinguish, yeah, between facts and opinion, all right? Okay. Now, okay, let's get to how to do online search or go berry picking. Okay, now why am I saying berry picking? Okay, so because when you go online and you want to look for literature, okay, so you have to be selective. Okay, you have to be selective and be systematic. Right? Okay, now what is literature? Okay, I'm sure some students, they kept thinking, what is literature? Okay, is it something to do with Shakespeare or A. Samad Said? No, it's not. Okay, no, it's not. When we talk about research, it's not about the literature, the literary appreciation that we're doing. Okay, we're having, yeah. Okay, not the prose, the poems, the play, yeah, not those kind of literature. But literature here refers to a body of knowledge, okay, or studies or writings or books, okay, which people have published and people have done on a particular subject. Okay, say for example, we're talking about COVID-19 vaccines, all right? So we're going to look at the literature. Okay, what does it mean by that? Okay, it means that we are going to look at research or articles which have been done on COVID-19 vaccine. Okay, what do people in the UK say, okay, about COVID-19 vaccine? All right, and then there's another researcher, okay, who did a study on the differences between AstraZeneca and Sinovac, okay, Moderna, all right, Pfizer, yeah. So we want solid evidence, okay. So that's what literature refers to. Okay, now let's get back to how to do online search, yeah, berry picking. Okay, so there are a few ways of doing it, yeah, there are a few ways of doing it because there's a massive information on the net, yeah, you can just get lost in the net, yeah, definitely, all right. Okay, so we have to identify some search engine and sites to look for articles. Okay, so if you're familiar with this, okay, this Google Scholar, all right, so it'll be very helpful. Yeah, so this is one very reliable source of Google search engine, yeah, to look for scholarly articles. All right, scholarly articles. Now, how to do this? Okay, how to get to this page? Right. So first, okay, you can just go to your common Google search engine, okay, Google Chrome, and then just type Google Scholar there, right? And okay, it will take you to this page. Okay, it says that Google Scholar, right? And you will type your subject, okay, the thing that you want to search, right? Say, for example, you have determined a topic. Okay, you want to talk about COVID-19 vaccine, yeah? Okay, as mentioned earlier. So you just type COVID-19 vaccine there, right? And it will take you to this page. Okay, well, you can actually see, all right, lots of topics there. Now, for every purple color line there, okay, purple line there, okay, it shows the title, the field of study. Okay, so it's talking about COVID-19 vaccine, yeah, determinants of COVID-19 vaccine, okay, prospects for a safe COVID-19 vaccine. Yeah, all right. So we have some articles there. Okay, not some. Yeah, a lot actually, a lot of articles. All right. So and you can actually see the authors. Okay, you can see the authors' names here. Okay, and also the year. Yeah, sometimes you have the year like 2020. So you know that this article is very recent. Okay, so when you do your research, all right, especially on issues like COVID-19, it's very important that you look for very recent materials, okay, very recent literature, yeah, because that will, help you to see what's the current issues, yeah, with regard to COVID-19 vaccine. Right, so it's very important that you look for the latest information. Better still if you can get something which is published in 2021, yeah, but 2020, 2019 is good enough, yeah. Okay, all right, and you also have related searches down there. Okay, so you have a lot of other topics there, yeah, if with regard to COVID-19. Okay, so if you click on one, okay, one article, it will take you to something like this. So this is just an example of an article, all right? So you can read the article and see what are the issues discussed there, what are the problems raised, okay? What is the problem or the statement, the statement of the problem, okay? The research questions, yeah? The methodology used, okay? And the most important thing is you can actually see the findings, okay? And you open, say, for example, 10 articles, which are talking about the same issue. And you can actually compare, and you can see, okay, what are the common things that they have. All right, what kind of findings do they have? Like maybe some articles, they believe that, okay, COVID-19 vaccines are hazardous to people. Okay, all right. And then a few other articles will say that COVID-19 vaccines are very good. Okay, and Pfizer is better than Moderna, for example. Yeah, so this is where you can compare. Okay, so you collect all this literature. Okay, you collect and compare. Yeah, you make comparisons. Yeah, based on what you're looking for in your research questions. Yeah, okay. All right. Okay. Now, the same page here actually is the continuation of the page I showed earlier. All right. In Google Scholar. So down there you can see Google. Okay. So these are the pages. All right, showing all the articles, and you still have next there. Yeah. So meaning to say there have been so many articles. All right. The literature is so rich already. Okay, all right, about COVID-19 vaccines. So you can actually choose any of the articles and read it, okay, and you can keep it and compare it with the others. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, now the second way of looking for literature, a reliable one. Okay, so the first one was Google Scholar. So the second one, you can go to ResearchGate. Okay, all right, you can just sign up for free. All right. Okay, what is ResearchGate? Okay, ResearchGate is the professional network for scientists and researchers. Okay, over 17 million members from all over the world use it to share, discover, and discuss research. Okay, we're guided by our mission to connect the world of science and make research open to all. Okay, so this is the site, okay, which pulls up so much research. Yeah, there are so many research papers or full papers, okay, uploaded. Okay, all right. So if you log in, it will take you to this page. Well, I have to show mine because I don't have access to other people's ResearchGate page. Yeah. So it will show you, the articles that you have published, and also you can just type there, all right, the topic of your research, or you can just type the author name if you know that somebody is very prominent in that area of, say, COVID-19 vaccine. Okay, he's the person. So maybe he has written a paper about that. Yeah. So you can just type his name and definitely it will come out. Yeah. So the articles will come out like this. Okay, the articles will come out like this. The title is given here, and you have the authors. Okay, and actually you can download the full article. Okay, you can download the full article and read it. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Just now, Dr. Saleh has talked a lot about abstract. He has explained in great length. Yeah. And I hope you already know how to write an abstract. Yeah. Okay. So I just want to draw your attention to the difference between abstract and full paper. Okay. Because there are teachers who PM me asking whether they have to produce full paper for the symposium. Okay. Now, for Frsis, we do not require a full paper. We just require an abstract, after which you conduct your research and uh, you give us the link, okay, to the video presentation of your research. So basically for Frsis, we just need two things, right? So the first one is abstract. The second one is the research video, okay? All right. But anyway, I just want to touch on the difference between abstract and full paper. Okay. So abstract is a comprehensive summary of what the research is about, as mentioned by Dr. Saleh. And a full paper, okay, is a detailed research process and findings. Okay. So for the symposium, you just have to do something like this. Okay. The title. Remember, you're supposed to write a catchy one, and then you have the authors and where they are from. Okay, like if you are from Sekolah Menengah Sains Selangor, so you just write Sekolah Menengah Sains Selangor. Yeah, okay. If you're from Sekolah Tun Fatimah, so you just write Sekolah Tun Fatimah. And for our purpose, we need you to write the what do you call that? Your email address as well. Okay. All right, so this is the abstract in one paragraph. And as mentioned by Dr. Saleh, you're supposed to write the keywords, okay? The keywords, the words which have been very prominent, yeah, for your research, okay? All right. Now, okay, so that's an abstract, okay? As for the full paper, all right, it should be the whole thing, okay? The whole thing, yeah? All right, it's not just an abstract, okay? So the whole thing about your research, yeah. So there's no preview available here. Okay, it's okay. All right. Okay, so that's the difference, yeah, between abstract and the full paper. Okay, the full paper is very long, normally like 19, 20 pages, which you send to the, what do you call that, journal to be published, all right? But for this symposium, we do not want that, yeah? Okay, now let's move on to the third one. Okay, how you're going to look for the literature. Okay, so you can Google the topic, but look for established, trusted websites, okay, journals, government organizations, okay, or specific NGOs. Okay, now if you want to okay, Google something, just use the normal Google Chrome. Yeah, you just write articles on COVID-19. Yeah, and you will have a list of articles there. Okay, all right. And also information, yeah, not just articles, and some are information. All right, if you see journals there, that means it is an article. Okay, you have 2020, you have YC Wu, that means you know the author and so on. So that shows that it is an article from a journal. Okay, from a journal. All right. And for your information, there are many types of journal. Okay, we have Q1, Q2, Q3, and also Scopus indexed. Yeah. Okay. So if you get papers from those reputable journals, okay, definitely your facts are cannot be argued. Yeah. So they are so valid. Right. Okay. Now, if you look at this one, yeah, www.who.int. So that is WHO, okay, which is a very established organization. Okay, and so in this case, you can actually select information from here, okay, because it's reliable, trusted. Yeah, okay, and of course for journal, we have this, okay. And like this one, www.webmed.com. Okay, all right. So we have to see whether this is a reliable source or not. If you want to take information from this site, yeah. Okay, so that's why when you go online, you just have to be smart enough, to distinguish between the good articles and the good information, okay, from the bad ones. Yeah. Then only your research is reliable. Okay. All right. Okay. Now, okay, continuing with this one. All right. If you get something from Kementerian Kesihatan Malaysia, okay, definitely it's valid. Yeah, it's a trusted website, definitely, because this is a government website. Hence, it is valid. The information posted there can be used in your research, yeah, research paper. Okay, all right. This one as well. Okay, from World Health Organization. Okay, so information from here is valid. So you can take information from these sources. All right. Okay. Now, another thing, okay, you can look for information, okay, literature in established mainstream newspapers. Okay. Like this one is from New Straits Times. So New Straits Times is considered a reliable source of information. So it's a mainstream newspaper. Okay, so don't look for information from any tabloid newspapers. Okay, like Cosmo or where else? I can't think of any now. Okay, but like for in those newspapers, okay, the information is at question. Okay, we can question some of the information given. Yeah. All right. Okay. Now let's move on to steps in online research browsing. Okay, so there are a few steps that you can have. Yeah. So first, you choose a topic. Okay. Second, determine the fields of study involved. All right, list items that interest you about that topic, narrow your topic, fact check your information, focus on what others have written. Okay, look for recent info. Okay, organize your information and create a list of references. Okay, all right. So the first one is choose a topic. So how to choose a topic? You have to brainstorm. All right, you can do techniques like clusters or mind mapping, concept mapping, okay, or free writing. Yeah. And for instance, there is one sub theme in our symposium, which is COVID-19, a paradigm shift in teaching and learning. All right. So maybe you don't want to talk about something which is in general. So you have to look at something which is specific enough. Yeah. So maybe you want to look at online learning itself. Okay, what is the paradigm shift here? Okay, so online learning. All right, so maybe you can talk about the impact on the global education or on Malaysian schools. Okay, or you want to look at the challenges in teaching and learning in rural or remote areas. Yeah, so you have to choose a topic. Okay. And this is an example of brainstorming. Okay, so this is mind mapping. So you have e-learning. Okay, you can look at the internet, the practice, the device, yeah, the theory, the skills, the websites, the courses. Yeah, there are so many things to look at. So you have to choose. All right, number two, you have to determine the fields of study involved. Okay, now, which field is relevant to your research? Okay, like for example, you talk about COVID-19, but you have to look at which aspect is it? Okay, which aspect of COVID-19 you are looking at? Is it from the aspect of education, economy, technology, healthcare, social, and so on? Yeah. Okay, because the moment you determine the field of study, okay, it helps to determine which journals to search for. Okay, because we have journals of in medicine, we have journals in economy, we have journals in technology, okay, healthcare, and so on. Yeah. So you need to determine that. Okay, and number three here, list items that interest you about that topic. Okay, so in this case, you need to know. All right. Okay, what are the things that interest you about that topic, which people do not talk about much? Yeah. So you jot down ideas and keywords, yeah, to search on the internet, the correct types of journals and publications relevant to your topic. Okay, and so these are some of the examples of the keywords that you can type. That depends on what is it that you want to research. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, okay, these are some of the things that you need to know. All right, so it's Asa already. Okay, we make way for Azan. Okay, all right. Welcome back, everyone. Okay, well, my house is just next to the surau. Okay, so that's why every time there's azan, we have to stop. Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Thank you for your patience. Right. Okay. So we are done with number 3. Okay. Let's continue with number 4. All right. Narrow your topic. Okay. So you have to narrow your topic down, but don't constrain too much. Yeah. Don't constrain it too much. Yeah. So don't keep the topic too broad, but not too narrow as well. Right. For example, when you talk about online learning, okay, poor, underprivileged children, shared devices or gadgets in Sandakan. Okay, well, perhaps that's too narrow. Okay, perhaps that's too narrow because you're narrowing it down to only those in Sandakan. Whereas not that many cases are like that. Yeah. Okay. All right. Or maybe if you talk about online learning around the world, okay, well, that's too broad. Yeah. You can't be talking about online learning in the whole wide world. Yeah. So you have to scope it, yeah, narrow it down, like maybe Southeast Asia only, or even maybe Malaysia, okay, or even in Selangor. Okay. All right. Well, in Sandakan, you can actually do that. All right. You can actually do a case study, for example. Okay. But it's you yourself who know what is it that you want to research. Yeah. Okay. So please narrow your topic. Do not talk about something which is too general. Okay. All right. Research is not about how broad the subject is. Okay. It's how deep. Yeah. You have to go in depth. All right. Not in breadth. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Number 5, focus on what others have written. This is what we call the literature. Okay, literature review. All right. So when you go and search for information in journals, okay, in articles, all right. So, well, you have to list terms or ideas or concepts that you discover. Okay, and then focus on the ones that you find most interesting. Yeah. So you have to look for recent info about your topic for the last 5 years. Okay. At least. Yeah. As you read the material, try to form an idea on the major issues discussed about your topic. Okay. All right. And sometimes after you read a lot of articles, you will identify, you will know who are the key persons, who are the main persons, okay, writing about a certain issue. Yeah. So you can start your search based on the author's name. Right. And you have to be aware that some sites may not have the original version of the information you are citing. Okay. Because some sites, they may take and borrow information from the original site. So it will be very good if you can get to that original site so that you can read what the actual author is talking about. Yeah. Okay. All right. And number 6, fact check your information. Okay. How are you going to fact check your information? All right. So you have to look at the sources of your online research. Now, if you look at refereed journals, okay, which are academic journals that require all articles to be reviewed by experts in the field, okay, so that is the most reliable source, okay, that you can quote, yeah, and put in your presentation later on, okay, in your abstract, okay. And the second one, books and monographs, okay. All right. So books, I think you know books. Okay, monographs are actually books, but they are more on academic or scholarly in nature. Okay, all right. So in this case, it depends on the publisher. Whether or not they publish reliable materials. Some books are not reliable at all. Yeah. Okay. All right. Number 3, wikis. Wikis, yeah, like Wikipedia and so on. They are of variable quality. Okay, they can be extremely good and reliable, but sometimes, they are not good at all. Okay, and they can be biased too. All right. Okay. Okay, you can also look for information in blogs and personal or corporate websites, but these sites are less reliable. Okay, less reliable. Okay, and most of them, they're not based on any research. Okay, so there's nothing concrete. There's nothing solid there. Yeah. So if you want to use the information, you have to use it with care and extreme caution. Okay, with extreme caution. Okay, and we also have summaries, overviews, and study guides. Okay, like for example, if you go to Pink Monkey, Pink Monkey is actually a digital library. So later on, maybe teachers can go there. It's a wonderful source of information, worksheets. Okay. Articles, all right, things that you can use for your teaching. Yeah, it's a digital library. Okay, and then Cliff Notes, all right, Wikipedia, and so on. But this the information in these sources, they're not reliable. Okay, and in fact, we also have parody websites. Okay, believe it or not, some students have actually cited information from parody sites as fact. So they're too lazy to look for information in articles. Yeah, so they just go to any sites and then they say, okay, this is a fact, but all right, it is not. Yeah, it's biased and inaccurate. So these websites are not reliable at all. Okay. All right, let's get to how to organize your resources. Say, for example, you have collected your articles. You have got your articles, yeah. All right, so you need to organize them. You need to organize them, yeah. Especially if you ask your teachers who have done their masters or PhD or whatever, of even first degree, yeah. Okay, so for you to come up with a research paper, you need to read a lot of articles. Okay, it could be like hundreds of them, yeah. And by the time you want to write, you don't know which article says what. You know the information, but you forgot where is the article. I mean, where is this information from? Yeah. So you got to have a way to organize them. Okay. All right. Now, keep your main idea in mind and the points you are trying to make, and will support with evidence and research findings from your articles. Okay, because maybe you have done your research and you want to relate it to the literature, what other people have said about your topic, okay, about your findings, for example. Okay, you want to relate that. Yeah, so you need to quote somebody saying something. Yeah, all right, which supports you, or well, may not be supporting you, but you need to quote from the right article. Yeah. So you have to have a way of organizing your resources. Yeah. Okay. Now check your outline and start mapping out where you plan to use your sources, facts, and citations. Okay. All right. So these are some of the apps to help you store or organize articles to be read later. For example, you come across this one article, very interesting, but oh, okay, your mom called you, okay, or your husband calls you, okay, to do something, yeah. Okay, so you cannot read the article at that time. So what you can do is that you can put it using you can collect these articles, okay, using these apps, yeah, to be read later. Okay, so you can use Pocket or Instapaper. Okay, we also have Mendeley, and this is Quicker, QIQQA. So I've been using this for my research last time, yeah, and Mendeley. Okay, for the two, you can store your articles. All right, for more comprehensive research, you can use these two, because when you write your paper, for example, okay, it will automatically give you the references. The moment you type the name of the author and the year, okay, all right, it will automatically give you the references. Okay, at the bottom. So this is a more superior app actually, yeah. Okay. All right. And finally, you have to create a list of references. Yeah. Okay. So as you download and read your articles during your online research, you can keep track of them by creating an electronic notebook, which would consist of a citation of your sources. Yeah. Just now, Dr. Saleh had mentioned APA. There are a few styles of citing citations, yeah, or doing references. Okay, so we have MLA, APA, CBE, Chicago, and etc. Okay, so if you're interested in it, then you can go to this site and check. Yeah, okay, what kind of format you need to use, but please be consistent. Okay, please be consistent. And actually, I'm expecting to see a list of references, okay, in your slides later on when you send in your presentation slides. Okay, so please come up with a list of references, okay, where you get your information from, yeah, the resources. Okay. All right. So this is an example of an APA format, yeah, style. So if you look at this, the book is in italic, okay, and you have the author's name, and you have the year, okay, and the year is in brackets. For some style, the year is just without brackets, okay. All right. So you can check this out, okay. And for something that you take from the online, yeah, online journals, because we have physical journals and online journals, okay, you can just write down the URL, okay. All right. Okay, so this is in text citation. So it says Stein 2018 said what? Okay, so you come out with a finding, all right, you discovered something, okay, and then you read, okay, someone said something similar to you, okay, which supports you, okay, which supports your finding. So you can say Stein 2018 studied this, and okay, the finding is similar to what is discovered by you, okay. All right, so this is the way of for you to cite, yeah. Okay, this is a list of references that I would like you to have in your slides later on, okay. So from where do you get the information? And it is arranged according to alphabetical order, yeah. So you have to come out with something like this. And okay, before I forget, yeah, so let's, I would like to remind you about plagiarism. Okay, all right. So this is like a big crime in research. It's like dosa besar in research, yeah. Okay, so do not plagiarize. Okay, do not plagiarize. Yeah. Okay, what is plagiarism? Okay, it's a copying of the copying of sentences, paragraphs, computer files, research data, creative products that are the works of other people, other persons, yeah, without appropriate acknowledgement. Okay, what it means is you can take their ideas, okay, you can take what they have said, yeah, all right, but you have to acknowledge, you have to tell the readers that, oh, okay, this information is taken from this person, like what I'm doing right now. Okay, I'm taking this definition of plagiarism from this website. Okay, and so I have to acknowledge because this is their work. This is not my work. Yeah. All right. But I think it's quite common for students these days to plagiarize. Okay, it's quite common. You just get something from the internet, copy and then paste, copy and paste. Okay, that's it. It's yours. All right, but it's wrong. It's wrong. It is what we call plagiarism. And in fact, if you go to the university later on, people can actually check whether you are plagiarizing or not. Okay, all right. So there is this quite a number of software, okay, which detects plagiarism. Yeah, and one of them is called Turnitin, Turnitin, Turnitin. Okay, so when we scan your work there, okay, all right, we put it in that software. What will happen is that it will highlight, okay, for example, the first three lines are taken from this website. They can detect that way, yeah. The next three lines is taken from the other website, okay, and then there is one whole paragraph is taken from another site, and finally they will tell you, okay, the percentage. Okay, or at the end of the day, it will tell you, okay, 20% taken from here, 1.5% taken from that, okay, 2.3% taken from another website. So what's left of you? Okay, so maybe a total of 97.4%, okay, has been plagiarized. They will tell us that, yeah. We have that software to detect plagiarism, okay. So please do an honest work, all right. Okay. All right. So, and this is my references actually for our session today. Okay. So I took information from these sites actually. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess that's it from me. Yeah. Okay. Back to the moderator. And thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And you have to stay tuned because there will be an online quiz for you. Yeah. Afterwards. And thank you so much.
Thank you to Dr. Azuhaida M. Taha for her brilliant presentation. A friendly reminder to all, do fill out the online quiz and attendance form that will be given in the chat box. Before we proceed, we would like to open a quick question and answer session. If any of you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the chat box.
Seems that there's no question. Well, they can understand everything. Okay.
So either they understand or they don't understand.
Yeah, it's one of the two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hopefully they have gained something from today's session. Yeah.
Yeah, true.
All right.
Anyway, if you have questions, you can even send an email to me or Dr. Azu, and inshallah, will reply and answer your questions. If you don't have your questions now, or malu to ask.
I think there's one question there. Okay, Dr. Saleh, where to get a validated questionnaire?
Okay. All right. Where to get a validated questionnaire? Okay, let me answer that question, Dr. Azur. Okay, a good question actually. If you do a study, for example, a quantitative study. Yeah? When I say a quantitative study, for example, a survey, in which you have a questionnaire. You can use the questionnaire, you can adapt, you can take a questionnaire from someone, or you can create your own. Now, one of the issue of creating your own questionnaire is that it has got to be validated, and normally you need statistical tool like Pearson correlation or Cronbach alpha to actually validate your questionnaire, and it's time consuming. So one way in which you can actually still do a survey and actually administer the questionnaire through Google Form is to find a questionnaire. One source in which you can get the questionnaire is through journal articles. And normally the articles, sometimes they have questionnaires. For example, questionnaire pertaining to anxiety. Yeah? Or sometimes you can see samples of the questionnaire on anxiety from a master's or PhD thesis. You just get the questionnaire and acknowledge the author, the writer of the questionnaire, and look at the validation numbers, and you can use the numbers. For example, if you only change some simple items in the questionnaire, you don't need to validate. You can use whatever numbers that the original writers have with regard to the questionnaire. You can use them directly. But if you make a lot of changes, then you have to validate. Now, another source in which you can get already made questionnaire survey is through using the mental measurement yearbook. Mental measurement yearbook. There is a list of questionnaire in which you can look for. So you can look through the thesis, you can look through this mental measurement yearbook or any other sources. If you are changing a number of questions, it has got to be validated again. If you are not changing too much, you use it in total, then you don't have to validate it. But of course, in the presentation, in this symposium, I believe you can create, you can adapt and create, make some changes. Okay, I think they will accept it, but of course, when you do your thesis, you do your master's thesis, PhD thesis, you cannot run away from the validation process. They will ask you, how did you get the validation process? What is the kind of statistical analysis have you used to validate the questionnaire? But for the purpose of the symposium, just have a questionnaire and say that it has been validated by my friend, I think the panel members will accept it. As long as you understand that it has got to be validated, we acknowledge that. But for your master's, BA, PhD, you must follow the validation process. Otherwise, your findings, your answers are not worthwhile. Yeah?
That's right.
Yeah.
Next, we have a question from user Ilya Maisara. With the question, I would like to ask, are there new articles that reliable source of information for our research papers?
I think Dr. Azu can answer that.
Okay, all right. Okay, like what I mentioned earlier, okay, when we talk about news articles, all right, okay, you have to get it from a very reliable source. So in this case, you can look at the articles in mainstream newspaper. Yeah, okay, all right, but of course not for PhD level. Okay, definitely no. Okay, it's just that for the purpose of this symposium, okay, we are okay with that. It's just that you have to get something which is from a reliable source. Yeah, not just any newspapers, right? It's not just any newspapers. Okay, all right. So I guess blogs, okay, blogs are not encouraged. Okay, blogs are not encouraged because they are merely opinions. Okay, they are merely opinions. All right, but you can go. The most reliable ones are journal articles. Okay, journal articles. So if you type in Google Scholar, so you can find all sorts of information there. Yeah. So why opt for news articles? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Mm.
Okay, can I add something, Dr. Azu?
Yeah. Sure. Sure.
Oh, okay. If I were, if I were writing a journal for my master's, my PhD, you have to read and then give peer-reviewed articles, peer-reviewed journals. When I say peer-reviewed journals, meaning Scopus journals, WOS journals, And another thing, when you are doing academic writing, you cannot use newspapers. You cannot use newspapers because that's not a reliable source. But of course, for this presentation, for this symposium, you can use newspaper, you can use any published materials. But most importantly, what you need to do is to cite your references, your sources, to acknowledge that this has been taken from a source. It's not your own idea. So if we know that, it's quite okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there is another question which asks, how do we validate a questionnaire? How do we validate a questionnaire? It's a very good question.
Yeah.
All right. For this purpose, for the purpose of the symposium, I don't think you need to validate a questionnaire. You can just create a questionnaire, construct a question, the set of question, and you have the findings. But just to answer your question, there are two ways in which we can validate the questionnaire. One way is through qualitative way. Another way is through a quantitative way. So in the case of a qualitative way, what we can do is to construct the questions, and then you say that these are the constructs that you use to have these questions. So you have your question and your construct, and you show it to an expert. Now, for example, if your questionnaire is on reading, so you give it to the reading expert. And the reading expert will look at your research questions and will look at the construct of your question and would say, yes, the questions are actually based on the constructs. So I agree with what the constructs measure, or the experts would say that, no, I don't agree. That's the qualitative way of validating a questionnaire. Now, the other way of validating a questionnaire is through using a quantitative way. Quantitative way is using statistical analysis, for example, like Cronbach alpha. The stronger the Cronbach alpha number, the more valid your questions are. So So you can use a statistical analysis to actually measure the construct, the reliability of your questions using Chromebug Alpha. You can just Google what is Chromebug Alpha, on YouTube, and you will get the answer. It's actually very easy. Yeah? It's actually very easy. You can ask Dr. Azu. I think Dr. Azu has done that too.
Yeah, I have
So coming back to your research questions, there are two ways. You can do it via qualitatively, or you can do it via quantitatively. Yeah. But for the purpose of the symposium, at least just have a question. Just say that it has been validated and show that it's validated by your friends, validated by your teacher, and you have made some changes. That's good enough. At this level for secondary school children from FRS, FSR, fully residential schools. So I think Dr. Azu and the panel members would accept it. All right?
Yeah, we would. Yeah. It's just that I would like to add, if you feel that you want to know whether your questionnaire works or not for you, you can actually pilot test it. Okay, you can pilot test it on some students, some samples. Okay, and you will see whether the responses that you get from the respondents. Okay, answer your research question or not. If it does not answer your research questions, that means your questionnaire is not quite right, right? Something is missing somewhere, and so you have to improve on the questions asked. So
Yes,
that's
yes,
another way of doing it. Yeah.
true.
Mhm.
And there is another question by Siti Nur Azmina Muhammad Hisham. And she says, after conducting the interview, do we have to insert the interview in our presentation, or do we only need to include it in the results? Dr. Azul, do you want to answer that, or do you want me to answer that? I think you can answer that.
Okay. Do you have to insert the interview in your presentation, or do you need to include it in the results? Okay. Now, for the purpose of the symposium, okay, we just want the results actually, okay, of the interview, the findings from the interview. Okay, the findings from the interview. And you have to quote, all right? So who are the respondents? Okay, why you are interviewing them, all right? And so what are the results of the interview? Maybe you have taken like three, because this is like qualitative, right? So maybe you just have a few respondents. So what are the common things that you gain from the interview? Okay, so maybe you can insert that in the results. Okay, in your presentation, in the video presentation later on. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, to add to what Dr. Azu has said, normally, in a qualitative study, you just mentioned that in terms of the methodology, you have used an interview. You don't need to show the real interview because it's going to be very long.
That's right.
5 minutes interview will be 4 or 5 pages. So what you do is actually to analyze the interview using thematic analysis or content analysis, and you have patterns. Just show patterns. The findings, for example, pattern number one. This is the patterns that we have found. When we interview all the participants, out of the 8 participants, this is the same thing what they say, and you just mention that thing. That's good enough. So you don't have to show the full interview.
Yeah.
Uh, so, but in a thesis writing, of course, we have to have sample of the interviews. But
Right.
for the symposium, just give me the patterns of the interviewer, the patterns that you manage to analyze based on the list of interviews that you have conducted with the participants. Yeah? Hope that answered your question.
Yeah. Oh,
I
somebody's
I,
asking about
I
Quora.
didn't see the last question. What was the last question, Miss Hannah? Or Miss Nor
Somebody
Azmira?
asked about Quora.
Azmina.
The next question is from user Alisa Rose with the question, what are literature review common mistakes?
Oh, okay. All right. So, what's the common mistakes make when you do literature review? Yeah. Okay. All right. So, okay. One, you are putting in all the literature that you can find. So that's the most common mistakes. Yeah. All right. Okay. You're supposed to only be selective. You select only the relevant literature to your research. Okay. You do not put in all. Yeah. Okay. It has to be related to your research. Okay. So you just do not go and find articles, okay, and get anything under the sun, and then put it there. okay, under COVID-19, for example, whereas your research is on vaccine. So it has to be related to vaccine, right? Okay. Another thing, I think the common ones is also you do not cite. Okay, you do not cite. All right. Who said what? Okay, who said what? When? Yeah, all right. Okay, and you do not really analyze the literature review. Okay, the literature that you have, all the articles there. You should have analyzed everything and say, okay, these three articles have said this. Okay, these two articles have said that, and so you compare. All right, so that's what you're supposed to do also. And of course, Dr. Saleh is more expert in this. Yeah. Okay, if you may add.
Okay, I think the biggest mistake is probably a listing of literature. Uh,
Yeah.
in a review of literature, actually, you are supposed to critically analyze the literature. You don't just include any literature that you have managed to find that is listing of all the literature. And another common mistake is that you include unrelated literature. Yeah, unrelated literature. You have to look at your research questions. You have to look at your research objective. So in terms of the body of knowledge of literature, it will only deal with whatever that you are investigating. Other things that are not related don't include. Another aspect with regard to literature review is to critically analyze and have a summary. Have a summary. Yeah, it's not so much a bibliography. What students do: research number one, summary; in research number two, summary; research number three. That is what we call listing. You cannot do that. You just summarize and state. You say most of the issues with regard to the literature or on assessment focuses on certain things, and then you give a list of literature, list of references. So you have analyzed. And that's how you do, not a matter of listing a summary of the findings. We get bored, we get tired when we read it.
That's so common, yeah.
So common.
Okay.
Okay, this one is a bit difficult from Mr. Alif A. Ali, and he says that what is the percentage of modification for question for validity testing? Now, actually, Mr. Alif, there is no percentage. By right, if you make any changes to the questionnaire, to the original questionnaire, you have to revalidate because the construct has changed. The construct here means the theory of the issue that you are trying to find out. So you don't change. You use your questionnaire in total. But for example, you just change items, for example, from Bahasa Melayu, Bahasa Inggris, the same thing. The issue is still the same, but only the language is different. I don't think you need to change. Yeah, so you can still use the same validity figures. You don't have to revalidate. So with regard to your question, what is the percentage? There is no such thing as percentage. As long as the issue of construct has not been destroyed, it has not been compromised, so you don't have to validate.
Moving
Oh, and
on,
some
user
yeah.
Nilesh Kumar has a question: how to be unbiased while choosing the literature? Can our guests please answer?
Okay,
Dr.
well,
Azmi, you want to answer that?
okay, yeah, all right, why not? I'll try. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, when you talk about bias, yeah, okay, when choosing the literature, it's always about your perception, your own perception. Okay, you have already a preconceived idea of what something should be. Yeah, okay. But when you when you get your literature there, you have to read thoroughly. Okay, and what does the literature say about about that subject? Yeah, and so you can see the pros and the cons, the good and the bad. Okay, what is being said in that literature. All right. So you don't go for something that you feel that okay, this article really support you. So you choose that article. Okay. This article does not support what you expect your findings to be. Okay. So you do not choose that article. So you have to be neutral. all right, and you have to base your research on the articles, on the body of literature that you get, all right, based on the research question. Okay, okay, Dr. Saleh, maybe you can add on.
Yeah, Mr. Nilesh Kumar has asked the question, and the question is how to be unbiased while choosing the literature. Actually, the issue is not whether you are biased or not biased in
Yeah.
literature review. The issue is you want to find relevant and unrelevant. So when you do a literature review, what you want is to find relevant literature, relevant literature. When I say relevant literature, literature related to the issues that you investigate. And the issues that you investigate are shown in your research questions and in your research objective. You know, what is your research objective and what are the research questions that you have? So you will find literature that are related with regard to your research questions, and you review all the latest literature. You have to get the latest literature within 5 years of publication or 6 years or 10 years of publication, and you review and you see where do the previous researchers stop in terms of the ideas, in terms of the topics, in terms of what they have investigated. What is the latest thing? What is the latest thing? And you have to show what are the areas that they have not covered. This is what we call research gaps, because research is doing something that has not been done. So when we do a review of literature, we want to find gaps, research gaps. So with the research gap, we know this area has not been covered. And that's why we are doing this research. So we want to highlight this. So you review the previous research and you see the gaps and you tell us that this is why we are doing the research and why we are investigating this, because this has not been dealt with by the previous researchers. Then that is what we call review of literature, and that is your contribution of the study, something that has not been done. You are not replicating any study, you're doing something that is unique, uniquely yours, something that has not been answered by the previous researchers. So it's not the issue of being biased or unbiased, but investigating and reading related literatures, and especially literatures related to your research questions and your research objective. Huh?
Mhm. Yeah, and somebody asked about Quora. Is Quora, reliable source? Okay. As regards to Quora, Quora is not reliable. Okay, Quora is not reliable at all. Yeah, because it's not based on facts. Yeah, it's totally based on opinions of people. Right. You see, if you go to Quora, then you can see how they discuss what do you call that, William and Kate, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, yeah, all those things, and which are not based on facts. Yeah, it's all about their opinion, right? And their encounter with that person. Okay, and it has not been supported with any hard evidence. Okay, it's not supported by any hard evidence. Hence it's not reliable. Yeah. Okay, hope that answers the question. Okay.
Well, that is all for the Q&A session. Thank you again, I bid to Dr. Azahida and Dr. Saleh for their excellent answers and explanations to the questions. Sadly enough, we have now reached the end of our webinar. Before that, I represent both of us to apologize for any inconvenience that we may have caused throughout the program. Thank you everyone for attending this webinar. Hope all of you managed to gain some useful information and knowledge to help for your future endeavors. As a reminder to all the participants and teachers, do fill out the online quiz and attendance forms designated for your e-certificates and evaluation sheets. Please fill in the information accurately. The forms are given in the chat box below and will be closed at 14th August, Saturday at 8 o'clock in the evening.
Before we adjourn from this webinar, let us recite Tasbih Kifarah and Surah Al-Asr together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr. إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Ameen.
Amin.
With
Okay, thank
that,
you so
we
much,
thank you.
everyone.
Yeah. All the
Okay.
best to you. Bye bye.
Yeah, all the best. And don't forget to fill out the form, yeah? Okay, for your e-certificate. Yeah. And thank you so much, Dr. Saleh. Okay.
Okay. Thank you,
All right.
Azul. Hope to
Okay.
see you again.
Inshallah.